Within the modern collective literary space, may it be here on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or in any other platform like Goodreads, the unreliable narrator has become its own entity, almost a separate genre by itself. Suddenly, as though naturally, another form of the unreliable narrator has evolved. From that of an homage to Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho into the novels that take tension as something elusive. The stories of today are not solely focused about women in horror. Instead, we witness the resurgence of narratives that simultaneously canonize the imperfect female protagonist. The polished mold has been shattered and replaced by its darker version, the feminine rage. But what I have noticed looking more closely into the genre is that these characters are subjected with utter scorn. However, it can be rightfully so, as for these books I am about to discuss, the moral boundaries are blurred, and sometimes the hero we are rooting for is not so in the right. First, we have The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, an unsettlingly unapologetic novel. Labeling it as depressing or self indulgent is such a disservice to the material and to the would be readers. The story has a certain way of making readers feel detached, but when you least expect it, the witty and striking metaphor pulls you in, and by extension, the story and Esther herself. The Bell Jar is such a befitting title because it accurately describes the protagonist's state of mind, Esther Greenwood, as she goes through her own journey of what it means. Well, no. The Bell Jar is such a befitting title because it accurately describes Esther's state of mind, which is our protagonist. What is amazing about the writing style is its immersive quality. You feel Esther, and by extension, Sylvia Plath's destructive choices and alienation from a world she was essentially striving for, yet can never truly grasp. For the times I have put this off for God knows how long, I'm just glad I finally got to read it because something this profound has never resonated in me this deeply. For your own unrealized emotions to be laid bare in words, it just hits differently. And it is the main reason why I'm very much interested in classic and literary fiction because of how they are inherently character driven. I have a lot of annotations in my copy, but here are the two main quotes that I would like to read. Because wherever I sat, on the deck of a ship, or at a street cafe in Paris or Bangkok, I would be sitting under the same glass bell jar, stewing in my own sour air. I saw my life branching out before me like the green fig tree in the story. From the tip of every branch, like a fat purple fig, a wonderful future beckoned and winked. One fig was a husband and a happy home and children, and another fig was a famous poet, and another fig was a brilliant professor, and another fig was E.G., the amazing editor, and another fig was Europe and Africa and South America, and another fig was Constantine and Socrates and Attila and a pack of other lovers with queer names and offbeat professions, and another fig was an Olympic lady crew champion, and beyond and above these figs were many more figs I couldn't quite make out. I saw myself sitting on the crotch of this fig tree, starving to death, just because I couldn't make up my mind which of the figs I would choose. I wanted each and every one of them, but choosing meant losing all of the rest. And as I sat there, unable to decide, the figs began to wrinkle and go black, and one by one they plopped to the ground at my feet. This paralyzing indecision is what makes the protagonist, Esther's struggle, so universal. There are really these expectations we place upon ourselves that surmount all the other things, but somehow, at a certain moment where we feel at our worst, being content doesn't feel right, and everything else is either too tiring or too irrelevant for us to care. With all the content on social media glorifying the overarching displays of achievement and the slogan literally being mediocrity be damned, some aspect of it starts to feel draining. I don't know, but there's just something so liberating about flawed characters as a means for us, the readers, to reflect upon and not just escape into a fantastical story. I am well aware that The Bell Jar is partly an autobiography, reflecting on Sylvia Plath's tragic life. Though, based on my experience, there is no quite denying it, that nothing is quite the same, like catharsis in art, most especially literature, that reveals what one is most afraid of. It is a kind of morbidity experienced in reading, but so does in every art form wherein a part of the artist is poured into the medium. The second book I will be discussing is Yellowface. It is such a surprising novel, but I am honestly taken aback by such a despicable character like June Hayward. She is the embodiment of a vile, envious, toxic character dressed up. Not to mention that she is a caricature of racism, which she constantly denies, but her actions say otherwise. All that being said, it would be beyond wrong for me to say that I found myself pitying her. I truly wanted for June to find her own success without all that damage from her own actions consequence, right? Despite Athena's memory and legacy haunting her until the end, she does not truly redeem herself. Yellowface, like Babel, is filled with brilliant commentary, playing well into its dark but satirical nature. The novel provides a perspective within the literary industry, a field that has been romanticized too often. If taken as its potent form, we witness writing and its cruel convictions, a grueling art we've always seemed to enjoy. Narratives are plucked from life to bleed about the pages, but June takes it to the extreme, and the consequences come back to bite her in more ways than one. The reason why the section of this video is particularly short is because I won't give away so much about the novel because I genuinely had fun with this. It was such a fun read. However, there were themes that, if elaborated a lot more clearly, could have made for a more in-depth analysis. I was drawn into sections of the story discussing the role of privilege, drawing the dramatic and the tragic for an idea, a story essentially. The writer marketed as an identity, and a more subtler one, creativity versus practicality. Nonetheless, Yellowface is honestly such a spitfire of a book that you cannot help but have a good time with it. And lastly, we have Gone Girl. This one is a marriage story, magnified into an intense, horrific narrative. Gone Girl is the novel modeled seemingly from the very concept that is almost ingrained in every true crime content or media, a love story gone wrong. The book makes it easy for the audience to identify with the individual characters, as each one alternates as the narrator. Not only does the point of view shift, but so does our allegiance as the reader. which makes it harder for us to know who to root for. Neither seems to be telling the whole truth, and yet both of them remain engaging. Amy and Nick are fleshed out characters, which is impressive, as it takes deliberate timing, given that this is a thriller novel and every page must continue on with the fast pacing. The switching narratives patiently build up the tension leading up to the disappearance, even until the twist where the real fun truly begins. Everything unfolds like a true crime documentary. The impact of media at large and how easily our perceptions create the image of innocence or guilt. Frankly, I would have liked it if the story ended up with Amy getting her orchestrated escape and Nick getting convicted for a crime he did not commit. I know, insane. The explanation for this is nothing short of self-indulgent. In a way, a part of Amy sees through the superficiality and the unspoken rules of being in a relationship. The cool girl monologue is one brilliant example. Film and literary media were at one point predominated by the projected ideas of men. Women in said media became subjected by tropes that simplify their interests in favor of the male gaze. There is a difference between really loving someone and loving the idea of her. Men always say that as the defining compliment, don't they? She's a cool girl. Being the cool girl means I am hot. Brilliant, funny woman who adores football, poker, dirty jokes, and burping. Who plays video games, drinks cheap beer, loves threesomes and anal sex, and jams hot dogs and hamburgers into her mouth like she's hosting the world's biggest culinary gangbang while somehow maintaining a size 2. Because cool girls are above all hot. Hot and understanding. Cool girls never get angry. They only smile in a chagrined, loving manner and let their men do whatever they want. Although Nick found himself a victim of Amy's wrath, unlike the others, Nick did not just give into what Amy wants. He wanted something for himself, which Amy obliged to her own horror. He teased things out in me that I didn't know existed, a lightness, a humor, an ease. It was as if he hollowed me out and filled me with feathers. He helped me be cool girl. I couldn't have been cool girl with anyone else. Their entire relationship dynamic can be summed up within one analogy. One jar is riddled about with cracks, never to be fixed, and the other a raging river. Their relationship is a parasitic coexistence molded within the characters' separate upbringing. Amy, with her constant need for the perfect image, needs Nick to build that around her. Meanwhile, Nick, for the most part, stood in mediocrity his entire life, which only changed when he married Amy. It is a vicious Ouroboros-like cycle. Amy with her unending need for games, and Nick the need to play them with his fragile ego. Gone Girl is an astounding novel about an artificial relationship in display. A twisted marriage between a narcissist and a sociopath. In a way, they are perfect for each other. Despite the ending being less satisfying than what I had anticipated, it still finished up strong with a steady pacing to back it up. It is a bit clearer now, perhaps after you watch this video, that I do in fact have a certain preference or bias as to what I expect from any genre that I read into, though none of it necessarily have to be defined solely by a singular trait like the protagonist or the story. What matters is how, as a whole, It reveals something within you that you've kept to yourself for so long. This is why literature as a whole should be upheld as a mirror to society and a mirror to the individual, because at the end of it, fabrication is used to reveal the unveiled truth. Thank you so much for watching, and see you on your next read.